session is really a beginner session. There are no questions that are too basic. This is your opportunity to ask questions of some very experienced and amazing people, as you've heard. So I thought we would go ahead and start by talking about what happened with Facebook today, or what happened to Facebook yesterday. And I thought that Adrian made a really good point, which is it's somewhat dangerous to be completely beholden to a platform for your connection to your people, right? So if you're going to try and sell NFTs, you're going to need to have that social connection. So I was wondering if anybody else wants to pipe in, or Adrian, if you wanted to give a little more detail on that subject.
The phone rang when you said Adrian made a great point, so I'm not sure which point you're referring.
When we were talking about Facebook, and you were saying it's really
Oh,
important to have your own connection to your following so that you're not at risk of a specific platform or the whim of some.
absolutely. And I've been at this for a very long time, before crypto really took off. I've been a social media influencer since, before MySpace. And so one of the things that I always tell people, especially working with small businesses and other influencers, is you need to make sure that you have control of your data. So you must create your own email list. I used to do a talk for network marketers where they would be building these huge downlines. And I'm like, yeah, but what happens if you're no longer a Mary Kay rep? Mary Kay owns all those email addresses. They opted into Mary Kay, not to you. So what you really need to do is you be the influencer. And this is a tool in your toolbox. They opted to you first, and then you push them into the downline. But things like that, where it's really about getting them in your opt in list, getting their mobile number, because SMS is huge now. And now the other thing that we're working on are wallet passes, because those allow you to geolocate your list as well. So for the musicians, when we're creating these NFT gated communities, you can then say, we have a live event in Dallas, and you can pick everybody who's geolocated within 50 miles of Dallas by their phone, and you can invite them. So there's a lot of new technology that allows you to have direct one-on-one relationships with your audience, where you're not having to cycle through a third party like Facebook or Instagram, who are really throttling you down. My reach on Facebook in 2015 was 110 million globally, 74 million in the US. And before I got hacked on Friday, I'm still in the midst of trying to get my page back. My reach was down to 5 million. So they throttled me. And I only have 85,000 followers on Facebook, but my reach was tremendous. And they've purposely shadow banned and throttled. So you're giving someone else control to determine if they like what you say or not. And, heck, they could decide that kittens are no longer funny and all of the cat videos are going to be gone. So you need to control your own data, control your audience, and really nurture and develop that relationship directly in a platform that you can control, that cannot be taken away from you. So you can't be deplatformed from your own audience.
Yeah, I have certainly experienced that myself. And is so you're saying that SMS and email are still the main things, but talk a little bit more about the wallet.
Well, so SMS and email are great, except you are talking about some fairly substantial costs when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And it does take time. I mean, when I want to email the million people on my email list, it takes days. It's not an instantaneous thing. However, if I want to push notify a million people, it takes fractionally less time. So it's also less expensive because it's an in phone thing. So push
Hmm.
notifications are much less expensive than an SMS, because that's got to go through a telephone company. And emails have to go through, SMTP. You've got to go through a whole process there. And if you're not using a proper SMTP server, then they're going to end up in the spam box.
Yeah.
So push notifications are really where we're going. That's one of the benefits for wrapping your website into an app, which is very simple to do and very inexpensive, to get your audience to download that app. And then by integrating with MetaMask inside your application, they open that application, they verify with their MetaMask, all the NFTs are there. You can then token gate all of the content that you want to be quote unquote unlockable. So you're not having to figure out some really fancy solutions to locking a movie, right? I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I have a movie, I'm doing an NFT drop. And I'm like, how am I going to mint this movie? It's huge. Like, it was going to be a fortune. And I figured out that by using Vimeo Pro, locking it to my domain name, having it only be able to be played on that particular page, and then
Mm-hmm.
token gating that page as unlockable content put me in complete control.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I I certainly was not that freaked out when Facebook went down yesterday. I had plenty of other things to do, but it does kind of lead to the question of how secure all of these things are. You mentioned you got hacked, Adrian.
I got hacked. They hacked me. Yeah. So there is actually a bug in Creator Studio. And what they were saying is, we want to pay you to advertise on your Facebook page because you get such great engagement. I said, okay, great. I don't think I'm eligible. So they were walking me through how to apply for eligibility. And they
Mm-hmm.
tricked me into revealing a backdoor admin link on
Oh
a Zoom
no.
call. And so that should have always been masked where you have to actually click the I button to
Uh
show
huh.
it. Because everywhere else in Facebook, it's not shown. It's just you can copy the link, but it's not shown for that
Right.
very reason. Except in Creator Studio, it's shown and it's very light gray, so I didn't even see it.
Oh
But they
no.
did. So they ended up taking my entire business manager with 80 pages, multiple celebrity pages. I did manage, I saw them. They took my TV page first. And so I did notice that. And so I notified all my celebs, and including my one client who reaches 3/4 of India. I'm on like quadruple 2FA. Like, they should not have been able to do that without my permission and a text message verification to me that it was being done. I got demoted to employee. And then
Oh.
they started taking actions as me, which I was like, what the heck just happened? I got an email that I was removed as admin, that I removed myself as admin from my TV page. And then they
Yeah.
started live broadcasting. And then they took, I thought I locked them out. I thought I got everything like secured, sort of, or at least kicked them out. And no, that didn't happen. So
Mm.
they then took my fan page, and on Friday for 10 hours, they live streamed a video game. I was like, what the heck is going on? And then all the support functionality, because I'm a blue checked verified celebrity, all the support technology, like I should have had a way to open a support ticket. I should have had a way to do instant chat because blue checked verified celebrities we have a chat. We can literally do an instant chat so we can take anything back immediately. That button was down. Everything was down. All the pages to open support said there's no support available, like this page cannot be accessed. So that was on Friday. And then yesterday, as we all know, Facebook went down. But it wasn't just that Facebook went down. Facebook's email was down. They're like, it was a database overload. I'm like, that would not affect your email. That's a different database. That's completely different servers. Their actual DNS was down. So
Mm.
that's not a database overload, because I have I have an influencer rep at Facebook who I had an appointment with yesterday at 9:15, and she canceled it at 9:13. Like, shit was going down. This was not what they say this was, because every point of contact that I have, and I know how their architecture is, and their internal email is completely separate. It's a completely separate domain. It's fb.com, right? Like, they have like 7 different domains. All the DNS was down, like everything was down.
Yeah, their marketing servers were down, which are also completely disconnected. And from what I understood, employees couldn't even get into the offices
Nope.
because their
All
card readers
the
were down
card
as
readers
well.
were down, the security was down, everything was down. That's not a database overload.
Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
Sorry.
speaks of something
Sorry.
more nefarious.
I used to
I,
hack
I,
banks for a living. I know how this works.
no,
That was not this.
I share your suspicion.
Yeah, and
Sis,
not to add flame to the fire here, but the reality is that basically there was a hearing yesterday where a whistleblower testified, so it's really
yep.
interesting the timing.
Well,
Yeah.
that was the 60 minutes. What was interesting to me was I watched that yesterday and watched her testimony, and she was talking about misinformation. At first I thought, I don't know what I thought, but it comes across that she's very blue, because she was only talking about misinformation on the red side. She wasn't talking about misinformation on the blue side. But when she was talking about the algorithmic changes, she's absolutely true. It puts you in this echo chamber. It doesn't matter what side you're on, you get into an echo chamber, and it just starts feeding you more of the thing, which causes division. And that's always been my big thing on my fan page. The reason I got so big and why my reach was so high is like, look, I'm a sensible middle independent. I go, look, I have deeply held beliefs. Feel free to disagree with me and change my mind using logic, reason, facts, and passion. And just one post, I had 1 million comments in a couple days, and 659,000 shares. And then every year it would go viral again. Oh my God, 6 death threats. It was hilarious because it was about smoking in cars with kids. So kind of, and at the time I was an ex smoking Nazi. So it was really bad. I had very deeply held beliefs about this. And so then the smokers went to battle with the non-smokers, but pretty much everybody was very respectful debate. There was no, except for the 6 death threats to me, including a 14-year-old girl in England. And I was like, I'm going to tell your parents. And she just went postal.
Yeah, I've had my share of those as well. Unfortunately, sis, you had come up here and you had a question. I wanted to open up the line for you, and what's your question?
Oh, thank you so much, Jeanette. And thank you guys for having this conversation. I was actually wanting to add a little bit of content to the about the decentralized chat um, because of what happened yesterday. Yes, ma'am, come on. Okay, sorry, Marilyn.
That's
She
okay.
hates when I'm talking to other people. She's like, "No, I'm gonna interrupt." So,
It's okay.
um, thank you. So yes, I had a conversation with a group of people yesterday about what went on with Facebook, Instagram, and I am definitely not as um technological advanced as Miss Adrian is here. But we did talk about how the decentralized social platforms, we kind of lose connections, for a lot of different reasons. So I just wanted to bring awareness to decentralized chat apps that do exist. There's one called GS Telecom that I use. And, so it was just a time for us to really, talk about it, highlight it, and let people know that this is something that does exist. And
That's that's super
yeah, yeah.
interesting. Tell us more about it.
Okay, cool. So it operates over the blockchain. Come here, Fahima. It operates over the blockchain, so it's 100% encrypted. It's private. It's secure. It's peer to peer. Um, it's available for both iOS and Android. Um, and so, I mean, that's just the beauty of it. It does just that, and it requires a crypto to use it. That coin is, if this is a safe space to mention,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this it's called G999, and that's the coin that's required to use to send messages. And I saw DeFi on here, and so you can set up a DeFi account with it, master node staking, there's different kind of node that you can send up for daily payout, but it does take 15 of those coins to send the message, but it's
What is it
amazing.
called?
It's called GS Telecom. I'm gonna put it in my link tree right now, upload it for so people can just go to it and just download it. But I can also send it to you back channel, just so you.
Oh yeah, please back channel me because
Yeah,
that
me
that would
too.
be very interesting to deep dive into that because there are, I mean, we have Signal and things like that, but a decentralized encrypted because here's the thing. Let me put it this way. If the product is free, you are the product. So paying for your chatting encrypted and everything, you're paying for it. So you're literally not the product anymore. I fully support that idea.
Awesome. And what do you have? Android or iPhone? Or
iPhone.
yeah.
iPhone.
Okay, cool. Got you.
So this is a really interesting thing. Adrian, have you or Eric or Carlos, have you experienced these kinds of tools and platforms before?
I like that idea that if you're not paying for the product and you are the product.
Mm-hmm.
One of the problems, so I like Wire very much, and Wire used to be free, I guess, in the beginning, and I got grandfathered in. But one of the problems that I had was that they went to a paid model, and then when I talked to people and I said, just go get Wire, oh, but I have to pay for it, right? And so if they're not willing to pay for it, you can't chat with them, right? So it kind of limits your audience, and that's why we end up with being the product, is because we want something for free.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. There are so many different ways to communicate now, and it seems like you really have to be intentional about what form of communication you use for what purposes. And I'm wondering if people are almost getting overloaded with different forms of communication, or if that's not really an issue for most people.
Oh no, I know I am. I mean, at some point, I used to be kind of dictatorial about which platforms, I use this, and I would sort of try to force people to use that platform until I realized, what, I need to be more flexible. And I ended up with like 15 different places to chat. And one of the problems is that you then have conversations with people and you can't even remember which application, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's and then you end up with apps where, like for example, I have WeChat, which is used a lot by the Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
So there have been a couple of instances where I had to talk to Chinese people, and I got WeChat. Okay, fine. But realistically, I didn't talk to them very much more, and I don't know any other Chinese people, and so I just have this app that I don't really use. And so at some point, I went and cleaned up, and I just got rid of a whole bunch of stuff. And I've gone back to the idea of forcing people to use. Telegram is primarily where I live, but I mean, Discord, and there's just so many different places where you can do this. It becomes crazy.
Yeah.
I literally lose track of my messages at this point. I join too many different channels, and it's something, honestly, from a strategic perspective, as an executive, I definitely, within our organization, we have definitely been minimizing the amount of channels that we're communicating because lots of people were missing the information. So, perfect example is we were using Slack. We were also using all kinds of project management software, anything from Salesforce to keep notes to HubSpot. We were using all kinds of different metrics, Adobe Analytics, Omniture, etc. And at this point, we just figured out with all these different analytics, with all these different messages that are incoming from emails, from phone calls, from anything and everything, from Twitters, from Facebook, from Instagrams, when we started to look at the metrics and how our employees were using their computers, how to communicate, because obviously everything's tracked nowadays, guys. Within your organization, just a heads up, if you work in a Fortune 500 company, everything's tracked. We noticed that people were commuting a lot on social media channels, and ultimately we found out that it was completely creating unproductive environment for everyone. So our strategy now with our 3-year strategy is we're downsizing our channels. People are only allowed to communicate through certain channels within our computer system, which sounds crazy, but it definitely has enhanced productivity, and we can prove it through our metrics through a small sample size that we did.
Well, no, that makes a lot of sense, Carlos. I have to say, as somebody who works as a freelancer with a large number of different corporate entities, I don't have an easy way around that because they're my customers. So I have some customers that communicate on Skype. I have some that are on HubSpot. It really, I have to have an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of which of my customers are in what place. But you brought up Discord, and that was definitely something that I wanted to talk about today because I think Discord is an important platform if you're interested in the NFT space. And I was wondering if Adrian or Eric or Carlos, if you can talk about how you use Discord in your discovery or in your marketing or in any way to do with DeFi and DAOs and NFT.
I was an avid user of IRC back in the day. IRC was really the first network that provided channels, and my experience with it had been that almost any channel that I picked, I found really, really intelligent people that were very knowledgeable about the topic at hand, and that were very helpful and more than happy to chat. And there was a certain sense of camaraderie. And then, IRC kind of started dying. I mean, it's still there, right? But there were these new platforms that people could have, like Slack and now Discord and Telegram and all these things. And so there were groups there, but what I've found, at least from the perspective of a developer, is that a lot of development teams that have Discord, they're just not very useful. Like I can post a question there and I never get an answer. And there's like, and I see that people posting questions, no one ever answers, right? So um, I've become aware of the fact that Discord has started to become a hub for traders, and for more, non-development type of stuff is starting to become hot that way. But for me, I've been largely disappointed with it.
Mm. Adrian or Carlos, you want to hop in on that one?
Yeah, so just an easy way for me to look at the drops is I actually join a ton of different drops from the different groups. If you want a simple strategy, that I like to use, long story short, you can go to OpenSea. You can look at the rankings of the current NFTs and their movement over the last 7 days or the last 24 days, or, the last 24 hours, and then ultimately see the percentages as they move. And then what I'll do is I'll join those different Discord groups. So perfect example is if I find down at the bottom, there's a ranking of something that's gone up, over, I'd say approximately 1,000%. And I will start to look at that one specifically, join their Discord group, look at how many comments are engaging. And the really quick, easy way to do this is once you join the individual groups themselves, is on the sidebar on your mobile, you're going to see red notifications of how many people have chatted. So you can basically see how many messages have gone back and forth. So I'll set a metric like something like if I see over 100 chats in there in the next hour, I'm going to expect movement within the next 24 hours and I might make a purchase. So that's just a simple strategy that I would use starting out.
Cool. So that is using Discord really as a buyer, as somebody who is looking to purchase NFTs. Adrian, have you ever had any experience with using Discord to sell NFTs or to market what you're doing?
I have. I'm actually developing a Discord for NFTs guide for my Insiders Alliance. And the way that you need to do it, I say there needs to be a 60-day launch window. You need
Okay.
to so I just did a consult yesterday with a team. They want to launch in like 9 days. I went, good luck with that. So,
Best
you
of
know,
luck, Adrian. That's some good
best of
service right
luck with
there.
that. Oh, yeah, baby. I'm like, yep. Okay. So really what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are able to develop a number of channels. You need to make sure that you have an influencers channel. How are you rewarding your influencers? So coming up with a method, and Discord has a way to track links. So you can do a leaderboard and do a 60-day launch, and every week for 8 weeks, if say you're doing a 10K generative project, you can allocate 100 of those for your influencers or more, and every week the top 10 each get one, so then you're going to give away 80. uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a way to get everybody to jockey for position. That's for just joining the Discord, so you have more like a bounty program than an affiliate program. uh,
I
and
see.
then and then anybody can participate as well. And then you want to make sure that you've got your media coverage down. Like, what are you doing? What are the stories for that are going to be really interesting? And then setting up an AMA schedule and an editorial calendar, just like you are on social media. But you want to make sure it's in Discord and that you have community building AMAs. POAPs are awesome for that. You want to make sure you have the POAP bot installed on Discord. You want to have different sections. So you have sections on like newbies, so you're walking them through like how to get a wallet and do all those things, and they've got the audio channels too, so you can do chats on that. And then you want to make sure that you have news, announcements, giveaways. NFT giveaways is a great hashtag on Twitter, so you want to tie in with that. And then you want to make sure that you have um, like really outlining, if it's a 10K generative, like the rarity tools, describing backstories, like things that they're only going to get if they're in the Discord. They're only going to understand the project better. And these are like things you'll tease on social media to drive people to the Discord, because you really want that community all in one place so that you can connect with them. And then as they join, you're going to want to give them that wallet pass, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then with that wallet pass, that will give them the link to get into the unlockable community. But if they don't have the NFT, they can't get in, right? So it's a way to tie it all in together, and you can have your main community on Discord and your unlockable content on a private site. But the other thing that you can do with the private site, which is super cool, is you can integrate using iframe or other methods to have your metaverse there, and they can't get into the metaverse without the NFT. And you can have private concerts. You can do, whatever you want.
Very cool. I need to learn more about that from you, Adrian. So I'm gonna take you. I'm gonna learn something from you there. Appreciate
Cool.
that.
You know, as I was doing some research about setting up a Discord server and getting set with that, one of the things that jumped out at me was your talk about being hacked. And there's a lot of cautionary tales about setting up your Discord server in terms of figuring out roles and permissions, right? A lot of us newbies are like, oh, I'm just going to set this up and then I'm going to give my friend the password because he's going to help me moderate this. But there's really some thoughtful work that needs to be done in terms of setting up whatever platform, whether it's Discord or Facebook, about how you handle roles and permissions. And like one of the things they were talking about a lot is that all channel specific roles in Discord need to be given actually above the highest administrative role, because once you give somebody channel permission, they can delete your channel, they can lock you out as an administrator.
Oh yeah, you really need to map those out. I've been in some channels where, they have like 40 different roles.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Like the first 100 people get an OG role. Um, you've got other people who, yeah, you need to be able to map all of that out. What are the different roles? What do you want to assign them? The other thing that I really highly recommend for people is to get very conscious, because they're using one email and their cell phone number. As someone who has been sim jacked at Heathrow Airport, and they had a 14-hour head start on me, I was not a happy child. I had a 14-hour head start on me when I finally figured out that I was jacked. And thankfully, my Apple ID is my porn spam inbox. So there's nothing in there, literally
Mm-hmm.
nothing. So nothing of value anyway. They literally used that email to go and try and do password resets on all of my crypto exchanges, or I shouldn't say mine, on every crypto exchange. And then they were trying to use that phone number as the two-factor authenticator. Well, my cell phone numbers are not my two-factor authenticator. That's not the phone number, and that email is not the email. Like, it's all something I never use anywhere except there. And each email is unique to that platform. So
Mm.
it all funnels into one inbox so that I can always easily get it. But there's no, it's not going to be easy, right? People need to think about that for Discord and their social channels. As someone who just got my Facebook business manager hacked with 80 pages with a reach in the millions. I mean, I'm salty as fuck right now because they still have not opened a support ticket for my verified page. And so I'm
Mm.
going to my friends who are like cybersecurity, who are literally working with Mark Zuckerberg. And it's not like I didn't already message Randy Zuckerberg. I did, who I'm friends with. Um, and so I'm literally pulling no punches. I'm going straight to NSA. I'm getting with my friend who was a partner in PPE. His best friend is the deputy director of the CIA. I'm like, dude, like, but all the emails were down. Everything was down.
Yeah.
So I couldn't reach anybody at Facebook yesterday.
So this all sort of begs the question, right? If you are a beginner and you're setting up to sell your NFTs, at what point do you need to bring in somebody who's an IT specialist, somebody who is a security specialist to help you set this up? I mean, because
Well,
this
if
moves so fast.
okay, if you're selling one, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, everybody who needs to know security for their wallets, just text 33444, the word wallet. It's in my bio, WALLET. all caps, and you'll get the crypto security worksheet. That way you won't lose your MetaMask or anything else. I lost mine for 2 days, and it was my company MetaMask, and I lost my ever loving mind. So you don't want to do that. Uh, and so when you're doing those things, you set it up correctly for yourself. And in there, it talks about don't use your cell phone number. Set it up for yourself. And then the other thing that you're going to want to do is think about, how big am I going to get, right? If you're going to get big, I would set up your structure, your corporate structure, your entity structure, your trust structure, all of that ahead of time before you start selling things for hundreds of thousands of dollars, because that's going to create tax implications. So you want to make sure that all of that is set up correctly as well. And that's when you would also want to get with an IT person. But again, this is crypto. This is personal responsibility and self-reliance. There is only so much that you should be outsourcing. And when you are doing anything, when you're talking about minting a smart contract and it's going to generate millions of dollars, you should take the time to have it audited to make sure that there's no holes, that they can't. I mean, they did this one recently. I can't remember the name of it, but it accidentally started kicking out rewards worth $162 million.
Oh, I saw that, and they were
Asking to
people to
return
give
it.
it back.
That was
Yeah,
And
compound.
$32 million was returned.
I
I
That
mean,
know.
was compound, and
compound.
their solution to the problem was to threaten their entire customer base to dox them unless they return the money. Which,
Right.
To
frankly,
dox
I
them
was
to
like,
the IRS, no less. I heard they were
I,
gonna.
I,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd be running for the hills,
Yeah,
right? Fuck.
the same thing.
Like, seriously, did
But
you just say that, right?
they
Are
don't.
you kidding me?
Well,
I
okay,
didn't
but
hear
if,
that.
if if they're
Wow.
gonna if they're gonna do that, I mean, you're talking about millions of dollars. So you have millions of dollars in compound. Then you just switch that to Bitcoin. Then you run that through a tumble wallet out to Monero, and then you can tumble it back into Bitcoin in a wallet you have set up on a VPN in a non-extradition jurisdiction, and then move it there, and then completely start a new life. I'm just saying, like,
Only that.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually not all that complicated. So,
It reminds me of this meme I saw on Facebook yesterday, or not yesterday, obviously, but the day before about. Yeah, I saw this lady who was crying because she lost $200 outside, and I gave her $80 out of this money I found because you have to pay it forward, right? I
right.
mean, it's kind of this idea that, boy, if your strategy when you mess up is to threaten and then plead, you probably didn't have a very good setup to begin with, right? So, yeah, I wanted to take a moment now to refresh the room and just say we are talking about NFTs, DeFi, and DAOs. And this is your session. It's a beginner session, so there's no question that is too basic. Ask us anything you like.
I have a silly question actually for the audience. I'd like to hear from them specifically what NFTs they're currently into. What are they looking at? What are you guys excited about right now?
Well, I'm literally shopping on OpenSea, and I'm trying to buy like a $30 NFT, and the gas fee was $150. So what am I really excited about right now? I'm really freaking excited about Polygon right now, because I got to tell you, I'm losing my ever loving mind here.
David had a question. I think you came in first. Go ahead, David.
This is for Adrian.
Yeah.
Would you please say that again? What you just said about the hack, the large hack that just happened, and what your solution was, including Monero and VPN and Live a New Life. Can you describe that again?
I'm laughing. That's awesome.
This is not financial advice. I
No,
used to
I'm
do
not. I'm
forensic
not. I'm
accounting. I'm
not.
just going to
I'm not
preface this
even going to go there.
for
I'm not even
legal
going to.
purposes. I have to make this disclosure. This is not financial advice. I used to be a forensic accountant in family law, and I have a forensics background in tracking blockchain transactions. and figuring out where everybody stole the money and how. So I am just basically expressing a past case as an example of how people run the fuck away. But I'm not recommending you do this. I'm just saying this is how it's done. So, okay.
I have
So,
to say, it did need a little unpacking though for the average person.
Yeah, it wasn't for the average person. I don't expect the average person. Okay. So, and I'm not going to give them all the little secret keys, but basically you would set up a Cook Islands trust with a Nevis LLC and buy a Trezor wallet and setting all of that up through a VPN into a non-extradition country. And then you would take that compound, you would convert that compound into Bitcoin, which of course they can track you. They know it's you converting it to Bitcoin. Then you would send the Bitcoin to a Tumble wallet, and that actually messes it up tracking wise. It makes it very difficult because they put 1,000 transactions into one transaction, and you don't know who's went in and went out and where it went out to. So then there's 1,000 wallets, but you put it out into Monero, then you'd probably tumble it again. And then you would convert it back from Monero, or leave it in Monero and convert it back to Bitcoin onto that trust, that irrevocable Spendthrift Trust's Trezor account. And then you can go wherever you want.
So the wallet, the Tumblr wallet you're talking about, explain that.
So a Tumble wallet is basically like a jigsaw puzzle washing machine. So it takes in transactions, right? So if you're going to make a transaction and you're going to put it through a Tumble wallet, it's going to process that transaction with a number of other transactions, making it very obfuscated as to what you bought. Right. This is what a lot of people do on the dark web when they're doing nefarious things. Bitcoin itself is fully transparent and trackable, and immutable. But if you put it through a Tumble wallet, it makes it more difficult. If you transfer it into Monero first and then put the Monero through a Tumble wallet, then it's 1,000x even harder to trace. It's still blockchain, right? So you would have to then, what a lot of people end up doing is they'll take the Bitcoin and they'll do what's called an OTC transaction, over the counter. So it's even more, it's like dark pools. It's even more harder to track. And
If you
then
can
that
do it
doesn't,
without KYC,
right.
which is hard to find. Yeah, David,
So the Tumble,
tumblers.
just so I'm clear on this, the Tumble wallet
Yeah.
basically encodes and decodes encryption of the ingest and the outgest, if you will.
Except that it's also thousands of transactions bundled together.
And who
What
is
they do, David,
responsible?
is they
Who creates? Where did that wallet? Is that a private third party entity that creates those wallets, or are you in control of that technology?
what they
That's go ahead.
take many different inputs, right? So there is more to mix funds. They take all the inputs from everybody and they basically mix them up, and then they produce outputs that are the equivalents of the inputs, but you are now holding money from the 1,000 other people who are also trying to mix things, right? So it makes it super difficult for them to figure out who, if they had your identity as a potential input, your money went to everybody else and everybody else's money went to you, and so now they don't know who you are.
I was wondering, so actually, let's move on to Felicia. Felicia, you had a question or a comment?
Hello, I just stumbled upon this room, but I was very curious about NFTs. I just signed up for the Engine wallet yesterday, and they gave me a free NFT. But I signed up because they said that it was the easiest way to upload your first NFT and sell it. So I wanted you guys' opinion on the Engine wallet. Thank you.
Anybody have experience with that? I don't know if
I
any of
don't,
us.
but I
don't
think
either.
it's a Polygon thing.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. You want to repeat that, Felicia?
Sure. Yesterday I signed up for the Engine wallet because they was offering a free NFT if you signed up. So I signed up and they awarded me a free NFT. But the purpose for me signing up was they said it was an easy way to upload your first NFT to sell on the market. So that's why I signed up, and I just wanted you guys' opinion about using Engine, or can you direct me on more information about that platform?
Yeah, I'm not, I am familiar with the engine. I'm just not super familiar. But long story short, most of those platforms are working pretty similar in the sense that, it'd be kind of similar to Dapper Labs in that sense. So, long story short, when you first receive that NFT, what's going to end up happening is it's going to go into a collectible wallet. And then once you have in your collectible wallet, it should be either A, you're going to have to list it on the marketplace, or I don't know if they might have set it up for you automatically to list it on the marketplace for you. It kind of sounds like from what you mentioned, they might have done that for you already. And then basically, you can pick your different marketplaces where you'd ultimately want to sell it. There's different marketplaces that you can choose specifically to sell that NFT. But yes, it is a pretty straightforward process with them, just because they are more well known. That being said, I definitely would just take a step back and look at some of the initial YouTube videos on how to sell the NFTs, because it's nice to be able to sell an NFT, but it's even more important to understand if there's any commissions associated with it, or if there's any royalties in the sense that they're going to roll down. So what I mean by that is if there's any cost associated with you reselling that NFT. So perfect example is earlier Adrian was talking about minting, and she talked about $30 that it would just cost, an astronomical amount. I think it was over 100 to mint something that was $30, so it made no sense.
It's
Um,
$150.
wow, see, that's just ridiculous. So since this has probably already been minted for you, I'm assuming through Engine, which is nice, since they're already giving you the NFT, you can go ahead and not have to take that cost if you just determine to sell it on their platform. But my personal recommendation is if you don't need the money, first thing, look at how much it's worth. If you don't need the money, learn more about it first before you make a determination how much you're going to sell it for.
Okay, and my final question with that, since this is all new to me, where do I should just research how much an NFT should be sold for? I'm new to this, so I don't want to sound ignorant and just put
No,
a
no
different
worries.
No, that
value on it.
Felicia, that is what this session is for. We want all questions. Don't feel bad.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was trying to keep it very simple in my explanation for you. I think that the best thing for you to do is to first look up that specific NFT and see what it's selling for on the marketplace. So there's going to be a marketplace where you're going to be able to see a similar NFT that's probably up for sale right now. And if you basically can value it approximately at that same, value, that's going to be the easiest way for you to ultimately, determine how much you should sell at this specific NFT for. So let me give you a concrete example to make it a little bit more simple. So say, for example, you have a VV Spider-Man NFT that's going for, I'd say about $10,000 right now. And then you have a Fantastic Four, Mighty Marvel, that's by Marvel, that's an NFT. And those are going for probably about, anywhere from $20 to $40. Obviously there's a big difference in price. So you would never want to put your Amazing Spider-Man at $20 to $40, correct? So that's the key thing there. So just figure out exactly how much your specific NFT cost first before you associate any price.
Okay, thank you so much, guys.
You're so welcome,
Felicia,
Felicia.
I also want to just um, give you a perspective, right? There are a lot of people making a lot of money on NFT right now. The basic concept is that they are limited in supply and they're special for some reason. And so people outbid each other for them, and and so some people make a lot of money. In general, this kind of stuff is highly speculative. So if you want to if you want to play, if you're a gambler type who goes to Las Vegas and allocates a certain amount of money to play because you think that's fun, great, okay. But if you're thinking that you're going to double them, be super careful, because there is a principle called the greater fool. um, it's all fine as long as there is someone that's going to relieve you of that possession at some point at a higher price. But if that doesn't materialize, you're the greater fool, right? You end up with a thing that perhaps nobody wants, and you put in a lot of money. So just be really careful with hard-earned money, right? You got money to play, great, have fun.
Yeah, I
That's it.
couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. You know, that's a really important point. You know, definitely do not be investing on FOMO or, you know, out of urge thinking I'm going to make a ton of money from these NFTs. I highly recommend buying things that you enjoy or you'd want to keep forever. So, a perfect example is because I love comic books or comic book characters, anything that I see related that has some sort of character in it, you know, I will ultimately make a bid on. And worst comes to worst, if I am able to, you know, make money off it, that's great. But worst comes to worst, if I don't make money off it, I'm not going to die either. So please do not use any money. Since this is a beginner session, do not use money that you need for rent.
Christopher, you've been waiting patiently, and I wanted to check in with you.
Hey, thanks. You guys hear me okay? Good morning.
Yes, go ahead.
Cool. Aloha from Hawaii. Anyway, I've been in the NFT space for what seems like an eternity now. I started last November with a game called Doctor Who. Just I was in crypto space, and someone said, you know, a Doctor Who game was launching on NFTs, and so that got me involved with NFT gaming platforms a little bit, and then through a blockchain chat on that game's Discord, I started entering all of this different space, and you know, first started with the Wax ecosystem, and then moved, of course, to the Ethereum ecosystem. At this point, now I've developed a platform and built a product and launched a project, a 10K generative project, and it's been an insane journey, you know. But I do have to say, all that sounds really optimistic and positive, but in many cases, I am exactly the greater fool that Ekis and Carlos were mentioning. I've invested in a lot of NFT um, products and just different NFTs, avatars, and different kinds. And there's a lot going on right now. I really feel like right now we're heading to this point where uh, it's super dangerous to be entering this space and to not have education. So it's awesome that you guys are doing this. This is actually the first time that I've jumped into a clubhouse room, and the first time I've spoken on one. But yeah,
Well, welcome.
that's me.
Thanks, Christopher.
No, welcome.
I did want to say a little bit of the things that I have gotten excited about lately. There's a few things. I mean, obviously, gaming on blockchain is, I think, where a lot of the movement is going to be shifting to, and already has in a big way. So I've invested in things like, you know, Pixel Vault's ecosystem. I also like comic books and gaming. Pixel Vault with the Punks comic and the Metahero universe is pretty exciting.
Very cool.
It's pretty expensive at this point. Not a good entry point, I think, but hopefully that'll open up. Another one is Rainy Lords of Light, which I think is going to be along the lines someday of Magic the Gathering for the blockchain space. And then there's all these like crazy DeFi projects that are popping up now. Things like Anonymice and See My Cats, Stacking Toads. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with these or not, but these are basically bringing the whole ICO model of launching a coin into the NFT space. And they're doing it sort of through the back door. So it's not regulated. But at some point, the SEC is going to get involved. And I think there's going to be some big messes. But right now, there's a huge amount of money that's being thrown at these things. So with the question, I'd just like to ask, with the DeFi gaming sort of platforms that exist outside there right now, what are some of the dangers that you guys are seeing in this?
I couldn't agree more with the SEC. Right now we are in a very, let's put it this way, it's going to be a very interesting, turbulent time, specifically for crypto. I think NFTs are probably going to get a little bit more leeway. And that's why I personally, and I thought that was a good point that you brought up, I am investing more now in blue chip NFTs. That's my key focus. And what I mean by those are licensed products by major companies. So I'm not really going gung ho into DeFi NFTs anymore, because of the fact that I think that a lot of people got caught into the greater fool, and ultimately are going to get caught with a lot of projects that are not going to be successful, unfortunately. I like to compare it to starting a business. So think about this. If you're an investor and you have, four different companies to invest in, and basically you're realizing, hey, some of these companies are obviously not going to be successful, and in most businesses, they're not successful if they're a startup. You're lucky to get maybe one out of, I mean, in my personal experience, one out of 12 that's going to actually render some good results, and the rest are going to be fails. So you need to be looking at it kind of in the same fashion. You need to be looking at NFTs like, hey, if I buy 10 different projects or 12 different projects, it's likely that probably nine of these are going to fail
There's an
if they're
interesting point there to what you bring up as well, which is that governments in general have limited resources, so they're gonna wait until something that is worth chasing, right? Um, what we've had up to this point since the invention of Bitcoin has been issuance by companies, primarily for crowdfunding purposes, and sort of largish sums of money, even as large as $4 billion in the case of the EOS ICO, have actually been generated from these activities, and so that's really worth chasing, right? But now the NFTs really change the picture because the issuers of NFTs are just guys who don't even know anything about code or don't know anything about anything. They can just mint an NFT and put it up in the marketplace. So the government is then going to be in the position of having to say that it's not that, well, they can't chase the issuer. They're going to have to chase the marketplaces, right? But a lot of these marketplaces are basically open source. Anyone can run one, so there could be a ton of marketplaces, even if OpenSea is the big one today. And so I think over the longer term, this is just going to get harder and harder to chase, right? There's a point at which, like what the Recording Industry Association of America did, where they ended up suing their own customers, right? And that's just a losing strategy. So in some ways, I'm watching this with certain keen interest for the power to decentralize the issuance of this and therefore create non-compliance. That's my interest in.
I have a thought on that. The issue, I keep bringing it up because we haven't seen any solutions to it yet. When Mr. Nobody sleep minted Beeple's version 2 of 5,000 Days in Beeple's wallet and then had hacked the smart contract in order to send it someplace else. One thing that was fairly interesting, that he could just make whatever he wanted to make, and that's what we forget. These protocols are not locked. These protocols are accessories. They're things you can use, but it doesn't mean that you can't write your own Solidity contract, mint it, and have it do whatever you want. And then at the same time, OpenSea allowed a hack or a faker, a scammer, to mint a dupe of a popular NFT that then a person bought, and then they said, "Oh, it's fake," and they deleted it out of their IPFS. So now this person is out of the fake counterfeit NFT as well as the money, and there's no recourse. So there needs to be something set up to prevent fraud. And I think that the user ID I've been working on, that's a critical piece. We need that so that we can then authenticate which human had agency to make that transaction. So we actually have somebody that is uh, taking the responsibility for doing the right thing.
That's
I'm done.
that that I mean, I think you and I could have long conversations about this subject too. Um, there are two directions. One is greater accountability, and the other is less accountability, right? And I think greater accountability at the end of the day ends up in the dictatorship type systems that we're currently experiencing. The other way is to say, well, look, if you want to knock off an NFT, knock yourself out, right? And if somebody buys it, well, it's caveat emptor, right? You want to put your money, it's a willing transaction, right? You want to put your money here, and it happened to be fake, whatever that means, right? Then go ahead and do it. And I think that there's I mean, I think that this division is exemplified best by the founding fathers. You're either going to let the crowd rule itself, or you're going to say, no, the crowd can't rule itself because it's just not smart enough to do that. So we have to have elders, right? And that's how we ended up with representative democracy. I think we've tried it. It doesn't work, right? I think we need to go towards wisdom of the crowd, and let's just let people crash. That's why I think it's important to tell people like you know, be careful with your money if it's hard earned, right? Because we need to support each other in this discovery of what is real value out there.
Well, I definitely sense that you two could go at this for a while, but unfortunately, we are completely out of time. And I want to thank everyone so much for participating today. It was another really fascinating discussion about these topics. And I think we can sum up from this. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. There are great opportunities out there, but buyer beware. We will be back tomorrow at 1:30 with our Creating Unicorns Clubhouse. And if until then, if you want to know more about what we're doing and join in the Infiom Fun, go to infiom.com, INFIOM, and sign up for our list. And we will make sure you are up to date on the latest things. Thanks again to our amazing panelists.
Best
Thanks,
of luck,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.